Hey, this is Andy Traub with some thoughts on parenting, and more specifically, 3 ways to parent like Jesus. So, I'm a parent. I have 3 awesome kids, wonderful wife, and I love being a parent. But last night specifically, I was up till 1 a.m. with my daughter Caroline. She had a pretty bad cough, and as she was laying down, she'd cough more, so I kind of sat next to her, propped her up, daughter in one hand, iPhone in the other, did some reading. It was fine. And I thought, okay, I'll go to bed, get 5, 6 hours of sleep. I'll be okay. But then my other daughter, Lucy, who's 8 months old, woke up about 4:45, and she was really just up for the day, for the most part. I think she's doing some teething, and it reminded me that there's a lot of times in those nights, early morning, late at night, that I do reflect on being a parent and figure out where do I get my patience from, because I don't have that much. And so these thoughts came to my mind. And I want to share them with you because, the more I parent, the more I figure out that, Jesus is an example in a lot of different ways to how we should live. But I don't think a lot of people think of Jesus as parent, since he didn't have any kids. So the 3 ways that I think that we can parent like Jesus, and there's more, but I'm just going to start with 3. And the first one is to answer questions with questions. My kids ask a lot of obvious questions, and that can really frustrate me, just sort of the same obvious questions like, the answer to that. Why do you keep asking me? But one of the best ways for you to really channel those questions into a healthy situation is to ask them sometimes just the same question right back and to see what they come up with. And Jesus did that often. People would ask him, a question, and he'd answer it with a question. And, my kids don't get really frustrated with that. They just answer the question. And it can be kind of fun to kind of spin it back to them. And if your kids get upset by this as they're older, they'll appreciate it someday. But we need to teach our kids to ask good questions, but also to explore good answers. The second one is to express your love in continued patience. It's one thing to be patient for a little while, but I think the definition of love in the Bible is love is patient. That's the first one in that list of what love is. And that's really hard with kids, frankly. They're not reasonable. I mean, adults aren't reasonable often, but kids are unreasonable all the time. Not really to their own fault. They just are. And so I would encourage you to try to practice the kind of patience that continues beyond your own natural strength. So when you run out of patience, just acknowledge it and say, man, I'm just out of patience. But then dig deeper to try to find continued patience. That's hard work. And Jesus is the example of this because his own disciples, really his kids, if you will, they were fighting over who would be sitting next to him on the throne, in the seat of high position. And then, they didn't understand the parables he was telling. He had to continually be patient with his own disciples. And so that's my advice to you, is to have continued patience, practice continued patience. And the third way you can parent like Jesus is to sacrifice and then rest. If you've ever been on a plane, they tell you to put the mask on yourself and then someone next to you if they need your help, because if you try to help them and you pass out in the process, then that's 2 people that can't breathe. So parenting is sacrifice. Good parenting is sacrificial. I'm not saying to lose your identity in that, but I know a lot of people, frankly, that have kids and then try to continue with the same lifestyle they had, and I think that's irresponsible. I think that you should adjust your life to your kids in a lot of ways. They're not an inconvenience, they're a blessing, and we can learn a lot from them. And so the last way you can parent like Jesus is to sacrifice, to change your life, to do things your kids want to do because you love them, but then rest. I mean, Jesus was very good about this. He sacrificed ultimately his own life, but during his years of ministry, he sacrificed a lot. He didn't have a home. He had no place to lay his head. But he also rested. He took time to go and to rest. And so you need to rest physically. You need to rest mentally. Just get away. Read a different book. Do something, with adults. And you also need to rest spiritually, to go find that place. And I think moms are much more guilty of this than dads. We seem to always find a way to find our rest. But you're no good to your kids unless you are rested. So that might sound like ridiculous, but listen, I've got 3 kids, 4 and under, and so I know what it's like to be tired. And so my encouragement to you is to find time to sacrifice. That's just good parenting, I think, and then also find time to rest. So hopefully that's been helpful. Those are 3 ways that I think you can parent like Jesus. And so my question to you, and you can leave it at takepermission.com in this post or below this video, wherever you're seeing it, is do you parent like Jesus? And if not, how could you improve as a parent? We could all improve. But what are the things that you do that you feel like are good? Let's celebrate those too, but also mention ways that you can improve. And appreciate your commenting. Feel free to subscribe to the newsletter at the top of takepermission.com. Get all the inside info on what's going on with our network there. Thanks and God bless.